I wanted to dispel a myth about teenagers. So we're here on YouTube. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And somehow I ended up in the algorithm of Instagram where my stuff was going more towards teenagers than to the parents of teenagers. I don't have a problem with that. It's a little hard to offer my coaching to people because I'm coaching parents of teenagers, not teenagers. But that's beside the point. I had made an Instagram reel and it's in my trial reels. So if you do follow us on Instagram, you won't see it on my main page. Instagram's trial reels go out and it's a trial reel out to your non-followers, non-subscribers. And that's where this one happened to be. And it was about cell phones. Looking back at it, I didn't have the best choosing of words, right? So like the purpose of trial reels is you can make different variations of the same reel and see which one performs better and then bring it back to your page, or that's how I'm using it anyway. So I had 3 variations of the same idea of a phone contract for teenagers, like when they first get their phones. In the reel, it's briefly mentioned that this is a first phone contract, or I think maybe I said when I first give them the phone. It was something like that. I didn't say a 12-year-old, or I didn't say that this didn't stay for the length that my teenager had a cell phone. So I could have been more clear. Hindsight 2020. But I had so much hate going on from teenagers that this was a dictatorship, that I'm going through cell phones like this is a hobby, that my teenager will never trust me, that they will want to go no contact with me as soon as they're able to leave my house. All these hateful things and born of assumptions, right? So at that point, I could do a couple things. I could ignore them. I could delete their comment. I could get an attitude back, which I did try to minimize. Instead, I decided to answer as if they were my teens. And this is obviously a misunderstanding. So I answered back very calmly and pointed out the words that this was a first phone contract, so probably a younger teen or preteen, and that they don't know about the internet. They do. I mean, they know about the internet, but they don't know about all of the dangers, all of the dangerous places that you can find once you have a cell phone, once you have social media. They need to learn these things in safe parameters, hence the phone contract. I don't want them scarred. I don't want them groomed. I don't want them to see things that are out there that are eventually at some point going to get in front of them. They've got in front of me and I was not looking for them online. So these are things that are going to happen. So we start with rules and we start with boundaries. And in our house, we did make it as a contract, and they signed it and we signed it and they got a copy, and they were encouraged to post this up, tape it to their wall in their room. So if there was ever a question of what is and is not allowed, it's right there in their face. So like they go to school and everybody's taking pictures of something funny that happened. Like maybe somebody, spilled their lunch all over themselves and people are taking pictures and laughing and it seems funny at the moment and everybody else is taking a picture, right? Well, they have a phone contract that says don't do that, and don't post something without somebody's permission, and don't take pictures without somebody's permission. And then that can get them thinking, why is this a rule? When everybody's laughing, it's funny, right? No, it's not funny to the person that it's happening to. It's embarrassing and they're humiliated, and now it's photographed and it's remembered and it's spread to everybody who wasn't there to witness their humiliation, right? So we're thinking of like an earlier brain with this powerful tool that we've given them. So yes, we're going to have rules with it. So each hateful comment from the teenagers that were viewing this reel, I was explaining, and some of them just stopped coming back. But there was one that said, wow, you would have, I forget their exact words, but like, you wouldn't be getting all this hate if you would have said it different. And I was like, yeah, live and learn, right? And then they put back a cry face and they're like, this is why I was so hateful. They felt bad for jumping on me like that. So here's what I want to say to this. There's a lot of people that say that the teenagers are just looking for a fight. And sometimes with the internet, yes, this is true, because that's what people do on the internet, right? That's not only teenagers, adults do that too. A lot of people hide behind their cell phone or hide behind their keyboard, and we blame it on teens because we as adults don't feel prepared to handle it or something. I'm not sure. Adults do it too, so let's not pretend this is a teen only problem. But each one of these, when they came at me with their pent up aggression, and some of them, they shared their stories, and I could see a little bit why they felt that way, from parents that were overly oppressive with cell phones or used the cell phones for control or really did give them no privacy on it. I mean, think about when you were a teenager. If you didn't have a cell phone, there was still a landline in your house. And what did you do when you wanted to make a phone call and didn't want people to listen? You tried to make sure nobody was home, or you took the phone in the closet, or you asked everybody if you could have a minute, right? There was still, even before cell phones, we wanted privacy in our communications, and your teens want that too. They have to prove they can be trustworthy with it, right? I mean, I know there were times that other people in my house were listening to my phone calls, and it was probably either they were just curious because I had siblings, or, if it was something they were concerned about. They didn't for sport or for hobby sit there and listen to my stuff. Why? That would be rude. That would be invasive. And it's the same with your teens and their cell phones. They should be allowed to have some privacy to talk to their friends. And that should only be questioned if they prove untrustworthy or if there's something that doesn't seem right where it comes to their safety. One of the teens that had written back said something about, well, because I reserved the right to go through their phone, I must go through their phone all the time. And I said, no. It's very much cleared out in this phone contract that it would be if there was reason for concern or if they were proving untrustworthy. So they have a room here in the house. They have a door, and I knock before I open it. Just as like with their cell phone, I would say something to them if I was going to go through it, unless it was an immediate danger. There are times with my teens when I do go right in their room, and when I think there's something immediately wrong. Same with the cell phone. That would be why I would go through it immediately, and maybe without their consent, as if I felt there was immediate danger. I don't use that as carte blanche to go through their stuff and pry into their lives. And some of these teens have had parents that do that. Because as parents, I get it. You hear all this stuff online and you get scared. But if you're acting out of fear, then that's not parenting, that's reacting. And it's driving a wedge with your teenager. But anyway, even those teens that had had the bad experience, we had conversation and they understood and the hate stopped. I did end up turning off the commenting on that post because I got tired of re-explaining everything every time. And it's, there weren't people coming after reading my comments and then continuing the hate there. So I explained it multiple times yesterday. And then I turned off the comments. And anybody that still was going to be reactionary, they could read through the comments and read through the logic and see with each one. There wasn't one person that was still hateful, one teenager that was still hateful after conversation. And after sharing understanding, and after them seeing that it was fair. So for all those that are all just teenagers, they're ridiculous, and they just don't listen, and they just want to fight. They come that way because they're teenagers. I acted that way as some things when I was a teenager. That's like teenagers are known for being reactionary and hormonal, right? And now these teenagers here, just like we're hearing the horror stories of what can happen to them online, they're hearing the horror stories of parents who use the phone for manipulation and control. So if we're reacting out of fear and they're reacting out of fear from these stories that we hear, that's not, think about the collision that happens there, where if we as the parents, because we're the parents, so this is on us as parents, take a step back and calm down and think, where are we coming from? Why are we doing this? And if we can justify our actions and justify our train of thought beyond, well, I heard that teens do this, because that's not fair. They can hear that parents do this and they can act that way. We need actual, legit, realistic, logical things we can support. And they're not too far gone that they don't listen. I can tell you because I just spent most of my Saturday yesterday. That's why this video is late and coming out on Sunday. I just spent most of my Saturday talking to other people's teenagers, and they listened. They came at me mad. And you know how people get mad on the internet with somebody they've never met. It's a more irrational mad because they can, because who's going to keep that in check? And every single one of them, through a conversation, calmed down and the hate was gone. So you can get through to them. They are not unreachable, even when they're mad.